Have you ever stopped to think that the biggest battlefield of your life is your own mind? No, it's not an exaggeration. The way you react to problems, how you interpret what happens around you, and even what you believe is possible. It all starts there in your thoughts. And the truth is hard if you are not in control of your mind. Someone or something will be. We live in times where anxiety reigns. The comparison has become a hobby and the pressure for results is constant. In this chaos, a lot of people collapse not for lack of talent, but not knowing how to think properly. This is where Stoicism comes in, not as a distant theory, but as a mental and emotional survival manual. And the best? It does not require you to become a monk, but you learn to master the only thing you can really control: yourself. What you will find out here goes beyond motivational phrases. Let's explore the backstage of the brain, understand how their beliefs shape their reality, and apply techniques that athletes, leaders, and ordinary people use every day to create a strong, focused, and resilient mind. If you feel you are stuck in negative standards, reacts without thinking, that you live sabotaging, or that success always seems closer to others, calm down. The key to turning this game is in your pocket, or rather, inside your head. This is no longer a video about positive thinking. It's about awakening, about understanding how your mind works, and especially learning to dominate it before it dominates you. Prepared? Because after that, your way of seeing life will never be the same. Your mind shapes your reality. Have you ever noticed how two people go through the same situation and go out with completely different perceptions? One collapses, the other blooms. The difference is not what happened, but the way each one faced that. This is where the game begins. Your mindset is the filter by which you interpret the world. It's not the facts that define your life, it's the way you think about them. Training the mind is like training a muscle. If you put it aside, it weakens and becomes hostage to the impulse, fear, and opinion of others. But when you invest time in cultivating a strong, self-control, and clarity mindset, it begins to respond to situations with more wisdom. It's like getting out of the autopilot mode and taking the steering wheel of your life. This change changes everything. Stoicism comes in as a reliable map in this process. It teaches you how to separate what you can control: thoughts, emotions, actions, from what you can't: opinions, unforeseen, past. This simple distinction gives you absurd power to stop wasting energy in what is out of reach and redirect it to what really makes a difference. And that's where magic happens. Think of an Olympic athlete. It doesn't just train the body, but also the mind. Visualizes the victory, controls breathing, reinforces positive statements. The performance begins before the start, inside the head. You don't have to be at the Olympics to apply this. You can start now, committing to small mental rituals that reinforce your resilience and clarity every day. Do you know that moment when everything seems to collapse? The secret is not to avoid chaos, but training your mind so as not to be dragged by it. This requires practice and requires decision. You need to choose every day to be someone who responds with intention and not just reacts on impulse. Over time, this becomes automatic, and this is where neuroplasticity comes into the scene, reprogramming its mental patterns. So before running after 1,000 strategies, stop and ask yourself, how is my mindset today? Without it, everything else is construction on unstable ground. Strong mindset is not luxury, it is base. And if you start here, everything around begins to reorganize. In the next step, let's understand how mental filters directly influence what you perceive as reality. Your mind does not reflect reality, it filters. Have you ever realized that two people can live the exact same event and leave it with completely opposite feelings? This is because the brain does not show us reality as it is, it shows us how we believe it is. Everything goes through mental filters that are formed by beliefs, past experiences, trauma, and expectations. And here lives one of the great secrets of the mind. Let's go to a simple example. You send a message, the person views and does not respond. A negative mental filter tells you, she ignored me, doesn't like me. Another healthier filter may think, it must be busy. Do you realize how the emotion you feel comes from interpretation, not the fact itself? This is how filters influence our mood, decisions, and even self-esteem. And do you know what intensifies this? The famous reticular activation system, RAS. It works like the brain's Google. You type a thought, and it starts to look for everything that confirms that. Did you think it's not good enough? Ready? He will show you situations and memories that prove this. That's why change your mindset changes your perception of the world, and that, my friend, changes everything. The good news is that you are not condemned to current filters. They can be updated, such as an operating system, but that requires attention. Self-awareness enters here as a superpower. Realizing when you are interpreting reality with distorted lenses is halfway. The other half is to question these lenses and replace them with more aligned narratives you want to be. A practical exercise? Every time a strong emotion comes, stop and ask, is this a fact or interpretation? Write, note, reflect. By often doing this, you start disarming automatic emotional triggers. And the most amazing, over time, your brain begins to create new, more calm, more rational, and more constructive neural paths. It is neuroplasticity in action. So the next time something bothered you, remember it's not the world that is against you. Maybe it's the filter you are seeing this world. And by adjusting this filter, you become someone lighter, more present, and especially more in control. At the next point, let's dive into the Stoic principles applied in everyday life to transform this perception into real practice. Answer: do not react. Most people live in automatic mode. Something happens, comes the emotion, and that's it. Explosive reaction, repentance later. Stoicism invites you to do it differently. He says between the stimulus and the answer, there is a space. And it is in this space that your power lives. Pausing, observing, and choosing the best answer is a skill that changes relationships, decisions, and even the way you see yourself. Want a practical example? Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Change for, what can I learn from it? This simple reframe changes the energy of the situation. The first question puts you as a victim. The second puts you as a protagonist. This is self-control. And the most amazing? The more you practice, the more natural this change of perspective becomes. Another powerful practice: negative visualization. Stoics did this every day. They briefly imagine the loss of something or someone important, not by pessimism, but to cultivate gratitude and presence. Try looking at your day with that look. Imagine that today was your last day with everything you have. How would you treat people? How would you enjoy your time? This practice changes its relationship with life. And don't stop there. The simple act of writing down your emotions at the end of the day already helps to develop self-awareness. Seneca said that an unhealthy life is a wasted life. When writing, you see yourself out. Notices patterns, triggers, repetitions. It's like watching your own series and finally understanding why certain episodes are repeated. Another crucial point is the art of accepting without surrender. It is not about conforming, but about recognizing what is outside your control and acting on what is within your reach. Did you get stuck in traffic? Use time to hear an audiobook. Was the day pulled? Breathe, reflect, and follow. Resilience is not hardening, it is adapting without losing its essence. Each time you choose to respond consciously, instead of reacting on impulse, you are training your brain to a new standard. A wiser, more serene, more effective pattern. At the next point, we will explore how to change your scarcity mindset to abundance and break free from the traps of comparison and urgency. Abundance, the key, is what you believe. Have you ever felt that you are always running against time, as if late in life? This feeling comes from a scarcity mindset, that inner voice that says, I don't have time, am not enough, it's too late. This kind of thinking creates anxiety, comparison, and stagnation. It's like trying to run with a backpack full of stones. The good news? You can drop this backpack. The scarcity mentality focuses on what is missing. That of abundance recognizes what already exists. It sounds subtle, but the difference is giant. An example: instead of thinking he got the success I wanted, try if he got it, I can. One paralyzes you. The other inspires you. The RAS, that reticular activation system we talked before, will seek confirmations for any of the beliefs. So how about programming it with something that strengthens you? A lot of people are stuck in the illusion that life is a race and that there is a right time for everything. But who said you were late? The journey of each has their rhythm. Thomas Edison was rejected 1,000 times before inventing the lamp. Vera Wang started your career as a designer at 40. If you look at your story with scarcity, you'll see flaws. With abundance eyes, you will see experiences. And make no mistake, mentality of abundance is not magical thinking. It is daily training. It starts with small actions. List 3 things you are grateful every morning. Stop consuming content that activates the comparison. Practice praise instead of competing. Change the I have to for I choose. These small adjustments shape your brain to recognize opportunities rather than threats. A powerful practice is to review your language. Words create worlds. When you say I can't, you are limiting yourself even before you try. Change for how can I. This simple exchange opens ways and activates creativity. The scarcity closes doors even before you beat. Abundance invites you to hit and insist, if you need it, that when you begin to operate with an abundant mind, anxiety gives way to clarity. You stop running against others and start walking at your pace. And that, ironically, takes you further. Now that we open this new look at your mindset, let's deepen one of the most effective tools to reprogram your brain: statements and visualizations to train your mind as an athlete trains the body. Did you know that the brain doesn't distinguish what is lived from what is intensely imagined? It is serious. It's as if you watched a movie and believe that this is real. This is why elite athletes visualize each movement before action. And you can also use this same strategy to train your mind, whether to achieve goals, focus, or strengthen your self-confidence. Affirmations are positive phrases said with intention that help create new patterns of thought. But there is one detail: they only work when you feel what you are saying. Repeating I'm rich without believing any of this, it will sound like a lie. Start with plausible statements that resonate with your journey. For example, I'm becoming more disciplined every day. Simple, realistic, powerful. Visualization comes as a compliment. Imagine your ideal day, your goal achieved, the version of you who faced the challenges calmly and firmly. Use all the senses. What do you see, hear, feel? The more vivid, the better. Do this for 5 minutes before bed or upon waking. It may seem silly at first, But that's exactly how neuroplasticity begins to act, reinforcing new neural paths. What's more, these practices activate the reticular activation system, RAS. Remember it. By visualizing your goals and affirming your ability, your brain begins to pay attention to opportunities that once went unnoticed. That job, that important contact, that forgotten idea, it all starts to jump to the eye. Because now your mind is trained to see. Want a practical tip? Create a morning mental kit that start the day with 3 statements, 2 minutes of view, and 1 action aligned with your goal. This gives a powerful start in your focus and raises your mental vibration. That it can be in the bath, the mirror, or in traffic. The important thing is to create constancy. Remember, discipline wins motivation. And here, each repetition strengthens the new self that you are building. So if you think this is just self-help chat, remember that neuroscientists, psychologists, and even CEOs from large companies use these techniques daily. That it's not magic, it's training. And like any muscle, the mind responds to constant stimuli. At the next point, we will deepen how repetition builds habits and redesign your mind through neuroplasticity. That repetition shapes your brain. Have you heard that saying, soft water and hard stone? It hits so much until it pierces. So it is the brain works more or less like this. With each repetition of a thought or behavior, you strengthen a neural connection. Over time, this becomes habit, automatic, natural, part of who you are. This is neuroplasticity in action, your brain's ability to reorganize, regardless of age. What does this mean in practice? That you can become more disciplined, calmer, more confident. Just repeat the right actions with consistency. It looks simple, and it is, but it's not easy. The secret is to create an environment that favors the habits you want to build. Leave the book on the headboard. Schedule the alarm clock with your favorite statement. Use Post-its with positive reminders around the house. The formation of habits does not depend on willpower, but on system. As James Clear says in Atomic Habits, you don't go up to your goals, you fall to your systems. Start small, 1 page a day, 5 minutes of conscious breathing, 3 gratitude before bed. The brain needs repetition, not revolution. Less pressure, more constancy. Repetition also acts directly on their thinking patterns. By stating every day you are able, even if you still doubt, the brain will fit the new idea. Add this to visualization, and you have a powerful mental reprogramming tool. It's like formatting a virus-filled hard drive and installing a new operating system, now updated and functional. Another important point, your brain loves rewards. Whenever you complete a habit, celebrate. A good job, a gesture, a smile. This activates the release of dopamine, reinforcing the action. Gradually, his body begins to want to repeat that behavior, not out of obligation, but with associated pleasure. This makes the habit sustainable and even pleasurable. So, if you want to change your life, first change your small habits. Over time, these simple gestures shape a new identity. And this new identity makes different decisions, responds differently, lives differently. In the next topic, we will join this process with Stoic wisdom and understand how to accept what we do not control without losing the action force. Focus on what depends on you. There is a huge difference between accepting reality and conforming to it. The Stoic people were not passive, on the contrary. They believed in action with purpose, but only about what is under our control, what is not. Accept, learn, loose. This separation changes everything, avoids emotional wear, brings clarity, and puts you in a position of strength, even in the face of chaos. Let's be honest, trying to control the uncontrollable is the right recipe for frustration. Traffic, the opinion of others, the time, all beyond their reach. But your attitude towards these things. This is 100 of yours. And here comes the power of Stoicism. Redirect your energy, stop fighting the wind, and start adjusting the candles. This is strategic resilience, neither passive nor reactive, intentional. I want a daily example. A customer screams with you without reason. Your impulse. Retaliate. But does it solve or just feed the confusion? Stoic breathes, observes, and chooses. I will not give the other the power to control my inner state. This is self-control. And it's a practice that at first you will want to explode, but with training, he learns to answer wisely, and that impresses even those who expected a fight. Stoic acceptance also helps you deal with losses, errors, and unforeseen events. It's like saying, it happened. I can't change, but I can choose how to follow from here. This is not cold, but focused. A focus that frees you from the role of victim and puts you as an active agent of your trajectory. Remember that classic phrase, it's not the events that disturb us, but the judgment we do about them. Practicing this in everyday life can start with simple questions. I have control over it. If the answer is no, let go. Redirection. Do something that is within your reach. This is where action becomes powerful, because you stop wasting energy with what is out and starts investing in what can really change your habits, your posture, your choices. And the more you exercise this intelligent acceptance, the more lightness you feel. You stop rowing against the tide and start navigating more fluidity. This does not mean that life becomes a sea of roses, but you become someone who knows how to row. At the next point, we will explore how this posture directly affects the way you deal with your emotions. Feel everything, but don't be controlled by anything. Controlling emotions does not mean repressing them. Much less pretend you don't feel. It means learning to observe before acting, to take a deep breath before exploding, to understand what that emotion is trying to say without letting it take over the wheel. Emotions are messengers, not drivers. And when you understand that, it begins to build a self-control that changes relationships, decisions, and even your health. Imagine a moment of anger. Her heart speeds up, thoughts shoot, the desire to scream is almost uncontrollable. Most people surrender. But Stoic does differently. It becomes the observer. Why am I angry? What thinking did this generate? This reaction brings me closer or walks away from what I want. These questions create a space between emotion and answer, and in this space lives their freedom. Jake's story illustrates that well. He was that guy who freaked out for anything line in the market. Traffic, alien opinion. Until it decided to change. It started with meditation of 3 minutes a day, then wrote in a diary whenever something irritated him. Gradually, he realized that most triggers came from non-realistic expectations. Today, Jake is still angry, but it's not hostage to her anymore. Mastering emotions also involves language. Phrases like, I'm anxious define you. Try I'm feeling anxiety. Now that it seems detail, but changes the relationship with the feeling. You get out of the identity mode and enter the observer mode. It is lighter, more true. Emotions pass. What remains is the way you choose to deal with them. And that, yes, is in your hands. Practical tools: conscious breathing, journaling, meditation, walks in silence. All of this helps slow down and create space between feeling and acting. And the more you practice, the more natural you become. There will be a time when, in the face of a provocation, you will smile inside and think, I know. And I won't fall into this trap again. True emotional strength is not to seem uncommitted, but in maintaining clarity in the middle of the storm, that you remain human, feel everything, but it is not taken by any wind. And that builds an inner peace that no one takes away. In the next topic, let's dive into how to cultivate this serenity every day with habits that build true inner peace that the mind calms down with practice, not with luck. Inner peace does not appear out of nowhere, like a magic past. It is built habit by habit, choose by choice. Small daily actions, repeated with intention, create a more stable mental environment. And when turbulence comes, because it always comes, you will be anchored that you can't control the sea, but you can learn to sail with more balance. Start with the basic silence. Nowadays, we live bombarded by stimuli. Notifications, social networks, external and internal noises. The practice of silence, either through meditation, conscious breathing, or just 5 minutes with oneself, helps to organize inner chaos. It is in this space that you hear your intuition, perceive standards, and makes decisions more clearly. Another essential habit is gratitude. Yes, it looks like cliché, but it works. By training the brain to recognize what is already good, you diminish the focus on lack and strengthen the abundance mindset. That can be a notebook, a note on your cell phone, or a thought before bed. Today, I'm grateful for this little exercise. Changes your internal chemistry and directly affects your mood and worldview. It is also worth reviewing how you start and end your days. Is your routine full of anxiety triggers or conscious breaks? A tea, a short reading, a prayer, a quiet song. These opening and closing rituals of the day act as emotional anchors. And you know the best. They don't have to take a long time, they just need intent and consistency. And of course, movement. Stop body, agitated mind. A daily walk, stretching, dance, functional training. Whatever possible. The important thing is to integrate body and mind. Stoicism, although purely mental, recognizes the value of the physical as part of balance. How you treat your body directly influence how you feel and how you react. The sum of these habits creates a solid base, a kind of emotional mattress that softens the falls of everyday life. That you still have challenges, but you stop living in survival mode. At the next point, let's understand how these habits also impact their relationship with money, health, and joy, and how true prosperity begins in mind. True prosperity starts from the inside out. Most people think they need money to be happy. But what happens when they do? They buy, travel, post. And after a while, the void comes back. This is because true wealth is not just what you have. It is how you feel about what you have. And it starts with mindset. A scarcity mind will never find peace even with millions in the account. Let's say the real money is important, of course. But it is an amplifier, not a solution. If you are anxious, insecure, or unbalanced, the money will only give it more fuel. Already a trained mind, with self-awareness and emotional control, transforms resources into quality of life. Therefore, prosperity involves relationship with money, not only quantity. And health. Without her, nothing else matters. But how many times do we stop taking care of our body because it is running after status or acceptance? The body is the temple where the mind dwells. Sleeping well, eating with conscience, moving every day are acts of self-love that directly affect your disposition, mental clarity, and even your patience with others. Health and discipline walk side by side. Happiness, in turn, is between the lines in the simple moments. Laughter without reason, in hot coffee, in the hug of who you love. when you cultivate a mindset of abundance. You notice these little riches. It is as if the RES begins to highlight previously invisible details that you stop running after more and start enjoying what you already are, and that changes everything. Practicing gratitude, taking care of the body, reviewing limiting beliefs about money, all this are invisible but extremely valuable investments. And look interesting when you feel good about who you are. It naturally attracts more opportunities, healthy relationships, and even financial prosperity. This is because your energy changes. And yes, this is science and not just energy in the esoteric sense. Basically, what we seek is not just wealth, but freedom. Freedom to live in health, to feel good about yourself, to enjoy the gift without guilt or anxiety. In the next and last topic, let's learn how to use visualization as a tool to speed up your results and train your mind. As an athlete trains the body. See before you live, feel before you conquer. Have you noticed how great athletes, artists, and leaders visualize victory before it even happened? They are not dreaming awake, they are training the brain. Visualization is one of the most powerful mental tools that exist. When you imagine an achievement with vivid details, the brain interprets that as a real experience and begins to create ways to make it possible. But it is not enough to see it anyway. Effective visualization has details: the sound, the smell, the emotion of the moment. Do you want to pass an interview? Imagine the tightening of the hand, the answer flowing, the sense of confidence. Want to start your business? Feel the smell of your office. Listen to the voice of the satisfied customers. The more real, the more your brain adapts to that reality and begins to seek ways to live it. The RAS enters the scene here again. By clearly viewing, you program this system to filter the world according to your goal. Do you know when you decide to buy a red car and suddenly only see red car on the street? It is the same principle. Visualization trains your perception to capture opportunities, connections, and solutions that were previously beaten. And yes, you can use visual tools for this: vision boards, panels with images of your goals, mirror notes, alarms with specific phrases. Put yourself of the future on the radar of your mind every day. This is not delirium, it is alignment. It is constantly remembering who you are becoming until the new you become inevitable. Include this exercise in your routine as if it were a workout. 0.5 minutes a day. Visualize with emotion. Take a deep breath. Imagine overcoming obstacles and proud of the way. This strengthens its self-confidence, reduces self-sabotage, and creates an internal energy that attracts action. Remember, first you see, then you do it. And when you believe, others start believing too. If you train your mind like an athlete trains the body, success is no longer a chance and becomes a consequence. The mind is the general essay of reality. Now that you have learned to build a strong mindset, emotional resilience, and consistent practices, the question that remains is, what are you going to do with all this? The mind you cultivate decides the path you walk. Arriving here, it's hard to deny it all starts and ends in mind. No matter where you are now, how many times it has fallen, or what they said you couldn't do, the question you need to answer is, who are you choosing to become today? Because, yes, it is a choice, and it happens every day. In the small moments that no one sees. Will you keep reacting on impulse or start answering with conscience? Will you feed fear and scarcity, or train your mind to see possibilities where before you saw boundaries? Will you expect life to change, or will take the steering wheel and become the architect of your own reality? The transformation begins when you decide to stop living in the automatic. Now that you understand how Stoicism, Neuroscience and habits shape your mindset. How about putting one of these ideas into practice today? Create a statement, try 5 minutes of silence, write what you feel, or simply breathe before answering. The important thing is not to change everything at once. It is starting and repeat. Because it is in repetition that the new you are born. So, what habit will you adopt first? Which mental filter will you review? What thinking will you choose to leave behind? Write. Share. Teach someone that the best way to consolidate what you have learned is to practice, and inspiring others to do the same. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. And she doesn't have to be lonely or confused. If this content made sense to you, imagine what is yet to come. It has. Much later, and your presence here already shows that you are on the way to growth. So, take advantage and subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and share this video with someone who also needs to hear it. Let us together create a generation with strong minds, quiet hearts, and extraordinary lives.